Hello, BC Calculus students. This is Mr. Johnson, and this is section 3.8, which is on rates of change. We've done most of this already, either when we've done a little bit of review in chapter 2 or during chapter 3 already. We've talked about these items. So a lot of this stuff is review, but I just want to go over it again, and then I'll go through a few examples with you. So first off, as an opener, if s represents the distance, the velocity will simply be the derivative of your position. And the second derivative of the position, which is the derivative of velocity, will be your acceleration. With the average rate of change versus the instantaneous rate of change, we're really looking at the slope along a function, so the secant line along a function with average rate of change. Let's say that that's between points x and points A, so we've talked about this difference quotient many, many times. This will be the average rate of change. And the instantaneous rate of change then would be the moment that that secant line turns into a tangent line. So the instantaneous rate would be the limit as x goes to a of f of x minus f of a over x minus a. And again, we've discussed this when we built the definition of a derivative and the difference quotient and the implication of taking the limit of that. And again, this instantaneous rate of change is the derivative at a based on what I've written with these dummy variables. Obviously, I think that can change. So if we were to take that connection and talk about average velocity, that's going to be the position at some time t. And let's say we're looking at, we'll just use a as the dummy variable. So we're looking at from some time t to time a, we're looking at the average rate of change, so the slope of a secant line. The instantaneous velocity then would be the limit as t goes to a of s of t minus s of a, and again, s is the position. And remember, that's the same thing as the derivative at some time a. Okay, on to the next page. All right, let's just review direction and velocity, because remember, velocity is directional. So we're, in the AB calculus world, we're going to either move left or right or up or down. And in the BC calculus world, we can enter into the parametric idea where we have both horizontal motion and vertical motion at the same time with that third parameter t. But generally speaking, if we're looking at just simple particle motion from last year, if a particle moves left, then the velocity is less than 0, and if it moves right, the velocity is greater than 0. And then if it's stopped, the velocity is equal to 0. Now remember, with particle motion, if it moves left, we would say that just the x of t is going to be less than 0, or right, the x of t is greater than 0. Up or down, then that would be y of t. And if it stopped, both x of t, the velocity of that, would be equal to 0, as well as the velocity for y of t. So again, just to clarify, with parametrics, if we have the derivative of your position x, it would be less than 0. The derivative of position x would be greater than 0. That would be left or right motion. And then again, the same idea applies if you're going up or down. It would be derivative in terms of y of t. Okay, let's talk about speed. So speed is the absolute value of velocity, and speed is not directional. Speed is going to be a calculation of how fast an object is moving, and it's not based on the direction it's moving in. Remember that in parametric form, the speed is equal to the square root of the derivative of x with respect to t squared plus the derivative of y with respect to t squared. Okay, and again, I'm just trying to make that connection between what we learned last year to what we learned or are learning this year. And again, this section 3.8 is a little bit in an interesting place, misplaced, because we just talked about parametrics in section 3.4. Acceleration, I don't know why this is in here again. Acceleration, I've already mentioned, is the derivative of velocity, or the second derivative of position. Okay, speeding up and slowing down is a really important idea, because often if you're asked a question like this, they're going to connect something with speed increasing or speed decreasing. So if you're speeding up, the velocity and the acceleration have the same sign. So they're either both positive or both negative. I'm going to give you examples of this in a moment. And if you're slowing down, if your speed is decreasing, then the acceleration and the velocity have opposite signs. And again, I'm gonna talk about the implication of this, as well as if they ask the question velocity, is that increasing or decreasing? That's a totally different question, because remember, speed and velocity are not the same. Speed is the absolute value of velocity, so they're connected but not the same. Okay, so just our summary here. So if you have a position of s of t, the velocity is the derivative, and the acceleration is the second derivative, which is the first derivative of velocity. Okay, on to the next page. All right, we're going to go through 4 examples here. Now, a lot of this is on the calculator, okay? So keep in mind that I've gone through a number of calculator steps through videos that we've done in class, but if you have any questions, you can certainly ask me with regard to how to type this in. I'm not going to be able to show the calculator on this same screen. But here we go. So for part A, we're going to calculate, and by the way, this is an FRQ from AB Calculus, and so this is just parts A and B. We cut out some of the other parts because we're just trying to focus on the particle motion aspect of all this. So the velocity moves along the y-axis, so it's moving up or down, and the velocity is given in the equation. So in your calculator, you're going to want to type that in for y1 and make sure you're in radian mode and you have the parentheses set and everything. So it's asking for the direction, either up or down, that a particle moves at time 1.5. Now remember, velocity is your assessment of the direction. So all we're going to calculate here is the velocity at 1.5, and since we're doing this on the calculator, all you need to write down is v of 1.5 to communicate what you're calculating. And if you type that into your calculator, you get 1.167. Now the question is the direction up or down at that time? And so what I would say is that because v of 1.5 is greater than 0, the particle is moving up at time 1.5. Okay, so again, the velocity is positive, that means it's going to move up. If it was moving left or right, that means it would move right. Okay, for part B, we're going to find the acceleration of the particle at 1.5. So what I would do is I would communicate that the derivative of velocity is equal to the acceleration. So therefore, the acceleration at 1.5, which we're going to use completely in our calculator, is negative 2.049. And it asks whether or not the velocity is increasing at 1.5. This is a really tricky question because a lot of times we think that this is speed increasing. It's not speed increasing, it's the acceleration connected to the velocity, and it's asking whether the velocity increases. So remember, just think back to what a derivative gives you. A derivative gives you slope. So if we're looking for the velocity increasing at 1.5, we want to look at its derivative, which is acceleration. If the acceleration is positive, velocity increases. If the acceleration is negative, velocity decreases because it's the derivative of velocity and it communicates increasing versus decreasing. So in this case, what I would say is that since the acceleration at 1.5 is less than 0, the velocity is decreasing at time equal to 1.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to example 2. So with this one, we have a calculator problem, and similar to the first one, you'll want to put the velocity into y1 in the calculator so we can analyze it, make sure it's in radian mode, and we do have the information that at time 0, the particle is at a position of x equals 1. Now keep in mind that we don't have all the parts of the FRQ. We've just pulled the parts that are good practice for this section. So we actually don't need that information about the position. All we're going to do is look at part A, which is the acceleration of the particle at time 2. And remember that the velocity's derivative is equal to the acceleration. So in your calculator, you'll do the math 8 derivative calculator and look at the acceleration at 2. And if you do math 8 and take the derivative numerically, you end up getting an acceleration of 1.588. Now the second part of the question is asking for the speed. Now the first example we did asked for the velocity and whether it was increasing or decreasing. Now we're talking about speed. There's a clear distinction between the two. Remember, with speed, we're looking for the sign of velocity and the sign of acceleration and whether or not they're the same or opposite. So we're going to calculate the velocity at 2, and if you type that into your calculator, you get a velocity of negative 2.728. So what we have is a positive acceleration and a negative velocity. So what we could say is that since a of 2 is greater than 0 and v of 2 is less than 0, the speed of the particle is decreasing at time equal to 2. Okay, I apologize if my 2-year-old screaming in the background can come through this video. Okay, let's try part B. So it says we want to find all times t on the open interval between 0 and 3 for which the particle changes direction. So what we're looking for here is a change of signs for velocity. So either we're looking for when velocity changes from negative to positive or positive to negative and when that occurs. Now on your calculator, you can do a couple things that help a lot. Number one, when you go to your calculator screen, you have y equals the velocity. The next thing you want to do is go to the window and change the window to go from 0 to 3, because again, you want to make sure that you're limiting yourself just to the spot that you're looking at, which is time 0 to 3. Then you can choose the option zoom, so the zoom menu, and zoom fit, which is option 0. And what that will do is that your x values are from 0 to 3, but the y values of the calculator can actually fit to your screen so that you can see them appropriately. So if you do that in your calculator, and once you make sure that you can see the entire graph of velocity well, you want to look for when it changes, when it changes signs. So you want to look for the x-intercepts, and there is only one x-intercept. And so when we're looking at velocity equal to 0, that occurs when the time is 2.507. And if you look at your graph, the velocity is below the x-axis prior to that time and then above the x-axis after that time. And so our answer to this question would be that velocity changes from negative to positive at time equal to 2.507. And therefore, the particle changes direction at time equal to 2.507. So again, we're just showing that there is a sign change, and we're specifying the sign change, which is negative to positive, at the particular time. And we've already clarified that velocity is equal to 0 at that time. So all the conditions we've lined up here to explain the change of direction. Okay, let's move on to the next page. All right, 2 more problems. So example 3 is a multiple choice question. So in your Y1 in your calculator, you want to type in the velocity, and it asks for what the acceleration is at time 3. So in your calculator, you're going to do math 8, and remember the derivative of velocity is acceleration. So we're going to calculate the acceleration at time 3, which if you do math 8 on your calculator correctly, you'll get 0.055, which is option B. So a nice quick question. All right, example 4. So this is a non-calculator problem, and it says that a particle moves along the x-axis at any given time, t. From t 0 to 1, its position is given by x of t, and so it asks for what values of t is the particle at rest. So we have our derivative of the position, which is our velocity, and that is 2 pi times cosine of 2 pi t plus 2 pi, and we're going to look at when the particle is at rest, which means we're going to set the velocity equal to 0. And I'm going to factor out a 2 pi so that we can better analyze the question. We know that we're looking now for cosine of 2 pi t equal to -1. And I'll show you a little trick with trigonometry that often works. So if you were to think of your graph of cosine, it looks like this. And in pre-calculus, you did a bunch of transformations with cosine. But this one's a pretty simple one, actually. The inside of this function is 2 pi t, which means that there's actually a horizontal shrink by a factor of 2 pi, which means that typically the period of cosine is 2 pi. However, we're shrinking it by a factor of 2 pi, which means the period is actually now just 1. So we have this nice kind of standard period of cosine, and it does say in the problem that time is between 0 and 1. We're looking for when is cosine, excuse me, when is the particle at rest. And we know based on our algebraic manipulation that that's going to occur when cosine of 2 pi t is equal to -1, which is this minimum right here. And we know that the range of cosine is -1 to 1. And so therefore, we're looking specifically at this spot when t is 1/2. So we can do just kind of a quick transformation of the function and do a sketch of this to analyze when cosine of 2 pi t is equal to -1. Okay, that's it for section 3.8. Thank you.